Jared, I know you've been tracking that rotation underway this month from chip stocks to the Mag 7. Just walk us through that. What's behind that?
Yeah, let's take a look at what we've done in the month of July in the Dow. So it's been 10 trading days, or today is number 10. And you can see we are up a whopping 0.5%. So the Dow has gone nowhere. NASDAQ has literally gone nowhere, only up about 2 basis points. The S&P 500 also up less than 1%. So that is looking like very choppy action. And I can extend this. Let me show you a year-to-date chart. You can see this choppiness goes all the way back to May. So the major indices have done nothing. Meanwhile, we have seen this tremendous rotation happen this month. So let's take a look at the Magnificent Seven, which have really perked up. This is a 10-day look. You can see they're up 7% in July. And meanwhile, the semiconductors are off about 13.5%. So I ran the numbers, like a $1.8 trillion has gone into the Mag 7 in terms of market cap. 1.4 trillion has been sucked out from the semiconductors. So kind of a wash, and that explains why the indices are going nowhere. And that just brings us to the main point, which is earnings season is upon us. And I'm really looking ahead to those big tech earnings. I think that's going to be the major decision point, and we're going to get a breakout eventually. Is it going to be to the upside or the downside? Only the future will tell here, Josh.
It is unlikely that Nvidia's initial H200 shipments to China would affect its quarterly performance. Simply said, the reported volume is too low. However, it matters to U.S. investors, since Nvidia's current guidance implies that data center computing revenue from China will be nil. According to Nvidia's earnings release, second quarter revenues for the first quarter of fiscal 2027 are expected to be approximately $91 billion, give or take 2%. Because management decided not to use China as a sales channel, the H200 sales channel is repeatable and may eventually generate more revenue than anticipated. Additionally, it might put shareholders in danger. According to CNBC, Nvidia has previously booked a multi-billion-dollar inventory charge due to an unexpected U.S. export prohibition on its H20 chip. Because of this, China policy has the potential to boost profitability, but it may also quickly eliminate profits. This implies that the initial H200 shipments will be more than just a geopolitical development. According to TechCrunch, they are also an early test of Nvidia's ability to turn a market that it currently values at zero into an additional source of sales. The business must accomplish this without losing money, disrupting American consumers' supply, or generating new inventory issues. That question won't be quickly addressed by the shipments. Nonetheless, they reintroduced China into the calculation of earnings for American investors. According to a regulatory filing from Nvidia, our successful foreclosure from the China market helped our competitors build larger developer and customer ecosystems to challenge us worldwide. Nvidia does not rely on China to support its growth. The first quarter's $81.6 billion in revenue represented an 85% increase over the previous year. Data center revenue increased 92% to $75.2 billion, according to Nvidia's most recent quarterly report to the Securities and Exchange Commission. On a non-GAAP basis, its gross margin was 75%, indicating the profitability of the AI infrastructure growth. Because of these outcomes, the H200 development is less of a rescue story and more of an optionality narrative. Nvidia has previously shown that significant growth can be achieved without Chinese data center compute sales due to demand from U.S. cloud providers, sovereign AI programs, corporations, and specialized AI companies. According to Reuters, a functional H200 licensing path might be another source of demand on top of the current momentum. It's still unclear how much potential there is. Nvidia described the initial shipments as very few and has not established a revenue target for the program in China. However, by assuming no China data center compute income, the corporation provides investors with a clear starting point. Little loads won't be very useful. If such is the case, a recurring sales channel might not be as ideal as it first appears. The need for investors to look beyond projected revenue is explained by history. According to the South China Morning Post, the U.S. government said in April 2025 that exports of its China-focused H20 processor will need a license. Later, the business wrote down $4.5 billion to cover its purchasing obligations and surplus inventory. According to its fiscal first quarter 2026 results, the company also said it was unable to ship an additional $2.5 billion in H20 revenue during the quarter. Nvidia stated that its non-GAAP gross margin would have been 71.3% rather than the reported 61% in the absence of the penalty. That example demonstrated how quickly Washington's export policies can affect how much an American investor makes per share. By providing Nvidia with a legitimate means of selling verified goods versus current demand in China, a strong H200 process may reduce such volatility. The H20 issue could be repeated by an unstable process. Based on consumer desire, Nvidia might commit to production, only to have a rule change prevent it from shipping its inventory to the target market. Then, U.S. investors should consider China's potential from two perspectives: how much revenue it brings in and how consistently Nvidia can produce it. The Commerce Department changed its export regulations in January to permit case-by-case inspections for applications involving comparable processors, like Nvidia's H200 and advanced micro devices MI325X. China was not completely opened up by the Bureau of Industry and Security Plan. Exporters and buyers must fulfill security, compliance, and supply-related requirements in order for their licenses to be approved. Investors in the United States are particularly interested in the Comprehensive Federal Register rule. Candidates must certify that exports from China won't interfere with U.S. clients' orders or divert semiconductor production capacity that might otherwise benefit the U.S. market. According to the company, Nvidia is becoming more popular in Japan because to the rising demand for AI. The chipmaker revealed on Wednesday that top Japanese businesses, startups, and academic institutions are using its Nematron open models, data, and libraries to create industry-specific AI models and applications. This will expedite the creation of AI that is suited to the Japanese language, local businesses, and labor force. Every country and business should be the owner and manager of its intelligence infrastructure. According to a statement from CEO Jensen Huang, open models enable that. We are working with Japan's AI pioneers to develop an open AI ecosystem that boosts national capacity, speeds up research, and guarantees that every society may take part in and profit from the AI revolution. The announcement coincides with the United States restricting access to Nvidia's technology in China due to growing competition and security concerns. China prohibits the export of Nvidia's premium H200 chips and the RTX 5090D V2 graphics card, although the United States allows the company to transport other less sophisticated variants, such Blackwell chips. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, MHI, the top engineering, electronics, and electrical equipment firm in Japan, also declared that it is extending its partnership with Nvidia to facilitate the construction of AI factories and high-density data centers. In order to support Nvidia DSX, the chipmaker's AI factory-scale platform that combines design, modeling, and operations for large-scale AI deployments, the Tokyo-based business is creating cooling and power infrastructure solutions. According to MHI, the collaboration will aid in providing AI infrastructure with integrated power and cooling solutions, including its modular cooling systems and cutting-edge power technologies like 800 VDC architecture. Compute, power, and cooling must all be integrated into the design of AI factories. The platform for that system-level strategy is provided by NVIDIA DSX. According to Vladimir Troy, Vice President of AI Infrastructure at NVIDIA, MHI's work in large-scale cooling and 800 VDC power infrastructure can help ecosystem partners build more scalable and energy-efficient AI factories. Additionally, NVIDIA revealed late on Wednesday that it is expanding its long-standing collaboration with Toyota Motor Corp. to implement AI technology in manufacturing facilities, traffic control systems, and smart cities. Beyond driverless cars, Toyota will use NVIDIA's AI systems into its experimental smart city project in Japan, Woven City. To speed up vehicle software development and boost manufacturing productivity, the manufacturer will also make use of Nematron big language models, NVIDIA's Omniverse, and Isaac Robotics platform. According to a statement from Rishi Dal, Vice President of Automotive at NVIDIA, physical AI will give intelligence to every moving equipment, including automobiles, robots, trucks, and the towns and industries in which they work. According to Dahl, Toyota and NVIDIA are working together to develop the AI infrastructure for a new era of mobility in which automobiles can become more autonomous, manufacturing can become more AI-defined, and urban settings can become safer, more intelligent, and responsive. Over the course of a day, Retail sentiment on Nvidia stock decreased from extremely bullish to bullish, although message volume stayed high. So far this year, Nvidia stock has increased by almost 12.5%. For months, the NASDAQ Composite and the S&P 500 have been stagnant. $3.2 trillion has moved between chip stocks outside of Nvidia and the Magnificent Seven beneath them. In July, the market value of the Magnificent Seven increased by roughly $1.5 trillion. In the meantime, semiconductor stocks, aside from Nvidia, have lost about $1.8 trillion. At the index level, those enormous changes have almost canceled each other out. The chart indicates that after initially entering the range in early May, the S&P 500 has spent more than 2 months oscillating between support and resistance. While the Dow has hardly moved in July despite Apple, Goldman Sachs, and Chevron breaking away, the NASDAQ Composite has been moving similarly during the same period. More than a few megacaps make up the rotation. With a median gain of about 6%, 44 out of 51 software stocks in the Yahoo Finance industry basket are up in July. With the median chip stock down about 20%, only a small number of 62 semiconductor stocks are up, including Broadcom and Nvidia. Even as software has revealed its own flaws, that gap has grown. Despite the pressure on corporate technology budgets revealed by IBM's historic decline, the company has fared much better than semiconductors. The most severe damage has been done to memory stocks. Following months of increasingly aggressive trading activity, Micron, Samsung, and SK Hynix recently forced memory stocks into a bear market. In an interview with clients, Stratagas ETF strategist Todd Sohn noted some similarities between the current semiconductor and memory sector rush and the ARKK rush in 2020. Both experienced high flows and volumes before they finally subsided. According to Stratagas data, semiconductor ETFs are currently trading over $40 billion daily, up from $9 billion a year earlier. Additionally, according to Sohn, semiconductors have gotten close to 18% of the S&P 500, which is historically uncommon. Big tech earnings are the next test. Now, the businesses that are increasing their market value must defend their actions. The losing chip makers have an opportunity to halt the decline. The NASDAQ and S&P 500 cannot remain in these ranges indefinitely. Which side eventually breaks could be determined by earnings.
To the new firm in a minute, because that's news in and of itself, but we have to talk to you about this because remember, before you left your prior job, you had just initiated on SpaceX and you were one of many bullish analysts on that stock. But why no analyst bump, as Leslie was just talking about?
Yeah, I think when you look at SpaceX, and obviously have some important launches coming up, I think the most important thing is investors, the longer term ones, they're gonna view these as speed bumps because you got to ultimately look at this is a story, and we talked about it. It's an AI data story. Space more and more is going to be a huge part of the AI revolution. My view in covering tech for decades. If you look at the Facebook or the IPO, what it did. You look at Amazon. It's very easy to get very short-sighted. This is a 26-mile marathon. I think we're only in mile 1 or 2.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, and a lot of the commentaries around that, but the fact remains, it's hard to value. And at its core, that's one of the issues. Yes. Normally, you look at companies and you can look at all the different metrics and come out with the price that you think it should be trading at, right? The valuation relative to its earnings. But this one's different. Sure. It's hard.
Look, the companies like this, they're not going to have quote-unquote valuation support. And I think that's part of the problem. When you get into these, it starts to have a cascade effect. But as we've talked about, whether it's SpaceX, whether it's, it was Tesla, whether so many of the transformational tech stocks, you have to be able, forest the trees, to look out next 3-5 years. And when you think about the fourth industrial revolution, where we are, it's hard to say that without SpaceX in the sentence.
What do you make of what continues to go on with chips and then what the mega caps are doing in terms of their trade today and over the past month? I mean, they've certainly woken up. Yeah. But chips remain really, really hard to figure out.
I think it goes back to SK, memory. Those are the golden childs of this AI trade. You've seen massive sell-off since really SK, went public. But then on the other side, look at where Nvidia and so many of these other chip names are. It comes down to 2Q earnings. I mean, that's really going to be the flashlight in the dark tunnel. We've talked about it. 15-to-1 demand to supply. This AI revolution is still third inning. But the hyperscalers, those are the ones that are funding the AI part, funding the CapEx. Those are actually the ones that are mostly in the penalty box. That's why it's so important for Alphabet, for Microsoft, for Amazon. We go into what's really just, I think, a fork in the road earnings season. But I continue to view it, the demand story, it's still early.
I want to talk to you about a number of those names. Let's go Alphabet. Because it's so timely given what Warren Buffett said. Hey, this was my pick. And he thinks they're going to be a winner. What'd you make of that?
Look, Buffett has talked about it. I think valuation, you look at Alphabet, a year ago, New York City cab driver was bearish on. And now, as it plays out in terms of what they're doing on search, what they're doing on cloud, some of the parts, for those like a Buffett or a Berkshire looking for, okay, what are valuation names that you could rationalize in AI? You go back to SpaceX and some of the others, maybe on the other side of the spectrum. This is a perfect example. That fits well in, and they are at the epicenter of the build out, and especially when it comes on search.